everybody to another motocross action video. This is the 2025 Yamaha YZ250F, one of the most popular 250Fs on the market. Also the championship winning bike from Outdoors this year, and the SMX playoffs with Hayden Deegan taking the #1 plate. The Yamaha YZ250F was new last year. It got the updated chassis and updated frame, but for 2025, now it has some minor updates that we've been requesting. Did Yamaha change for 2025? Well, the main focus was on handling. They updated the suspension in the forks and in the shock. Also, the linkage has a new rising rate ratio. Other updates are very, very minor to this bike. Foot peg brackets. We've been standing on these for the last couple of years, so they've shaved these down so you won't stand on them. Also, there's no heat shield on the exhaust right here. Map switch has a little extra protection. This is a copy of what the factory teams have been doing to 3D print the map switches just to make sure you don't bump into it and stall your bike midair. Throttle tube and throttle housing have been updated to prevent Yamaha thumb. I think the seat cover a little bit more grippy, but overall, very minor updates, but we know a lot about the YZ250F in this video. We're gonna be shaking it down with multiple riders, multiple tracks, telling you all you need to know about the YZ250F. So because Yamaha didn't make any crazy changes for this 2025 model, it was really important today to ride the 2024 and compare it to this one. Suspension settings, those were where Yamaha focused for 2025. And here in smoother conditions, not a huge difference, but I definitely felt more hold up out of the 25 model. It felt more racy, felt more confident for me coming into corners with the little bit of bumps that we had. However, the pros to the 2024 model, a little bit softer suspension. So on the corners that had less traction, smaller ruts, less berms, it was easier to sink into the corner and pivot, and it was overall just a little bit easier to corner on the 24 settings with just a little bit softer suspension. But 25 model, I loved how racy this stuff is. For me, intermediate pro level rider on a smoother track, worked really good. All right, 2025 YZ250F first impressions. We rode at Paula, but it was pretty smooth. Yamaha had the track rented out, so we had to take it to Glen Helen, ride a little bit of a rougher track. First impressions, it's easy to know and easy to feel why so many people like the YZ250F. This thing is extremely strong in the power department, and it's exciting. It's exciting and fun to ride, and I think that's what draws a lot of people to this bike. Suspension settings are different for 2025, definitely more hold-up, but I'm excited to see what the other guys say and think about the suspension today here at Glen Helen.
Suspension, it has quite a bit different feel than last year, and obviously I didn't ride it all that much, so it definitely needs some balance feel for me to get a little bit more weight onto the front end, just to push through to get the little better tire feel, because when you do crack the throttle, just like the 450, the front end gets a little light following the really shallow ruts. So that's just my initial thoughts jumping on it.
Compared to the KX250, what did you like about the Yamaha, and what did you like about the Cowie?
Well, the Cowie, when it revs real high, it's still pulling forward. Like if you're revved out in second gear on the 250 and you hit the bumps, you're hitting the front of the bumps, and I don't feel like my forward momentum's all that good. Where the Cowie will drive and get up on top of the bumps, I definitely still thought the Yamaha turned better, and I like the chassis on the Yamaha for my size being 184 pounds without gear. The Yamaha suited my size, but just the engine took a lot of work for me to ride.
The seat still is not very good. The suspension's okay. It kind of felt the same to me, actually.
Really?
Today, I couldn't tell big differences in the suspension. The fork might be a little bit better, like it might hold up better in the fork, but it's probably pretty minimal. Relative to the Cowie and the Triumph, the Yamaha is much better. I'd say the Yamaha was really good, like good engine, good brake, pretty good handling. The Cowie had a good mid-range, suspension was not so good, and it's kind of funky. The Triumph was very good actually, but just doesn't quite have the power that the Yamaha does.
Yeah. All right, cool.
The forks are really good. Suspension's really good on the Yamaha. Bottoming resistance is pretty good on the Yamaha. We tried that out today, so yeah, excited to get some more time on it. See if we can break anything.
The thing turns so well. That was my first impression. Just, you know, like riding the Kawasaki has been great for me because I think just out of the gate, it's just kind of a stiff setup. We talked about that a lot, but getting used to it, you know, you kind of settle in. And then I got the 25 YC today, and I'm like, this thing turns.
Yep.
So I was flying around the track, you know, Trevor had me out here filming, and I was like, I don't know if I can get going. And I was able to do that on the YZ. So I felt right at home.
Which bike would you go race right now?
The YZ, probably because the Kawi would wear me out a little bit, and, you know, even jumping on some of the other bikes, it does take a little bit more energy out of me. Where the Yamaha, I feel like I go a lot longer. It's pretty plush. It's hard to beat that KYB setup.
Yeah. Getting into the engine, Yamaha is the only manufacturer that has a backwards engine concept, and it makes for awesome power. Everybody loves the YZ250F for how strong it is off that crack of the throttle. Having the backwards facing engine means that the throttle body and the air intake can be up here at the front where the gas cap is normally on other brands. Air going straight down into the airbox, into the engine, helps that power a ton. Now last year for 2024, Yamaha did change a few minor things for the engine. They beefed up the cam chain and the cam chain tensioner for durability, and they also added a new airbox up here with a longer, actually a shorter venturi to get more air into the intake. What it did though was it took away a little bit of bottom end grunt and a bottom end throttle response, and it added a little more power in the top end of the YZ250F engine. Last year we complained about it in our initial test video. I was completely wrong. I blamed it on the cam chain being a little bit heavier, beefier, taking more power to spin up. Mitch Payton, he corrected me. He said, no, it's not the cam chain that's making the power difference on the track. You're actually feeling the airbox, the different style airbox, making it a little bit slower off the crack of the throttle, but then improving top end horsepower on the YZ250F. So Jamie Ellis of Twisted Development, he developed a new airbox for it. Basically takes the old style Yamaha 450 airbox, puts it on the 250, and then he also maps a Vortex ECU to go with it. Boosts power like crazy, and it brings back that bottom end and just completely opens up this bike. So today I did get to try that on our 2024 model. It had the Vortex, it had the 450 airbox on it. Crazy how big of a difference that is, but it is pretty expensive. I believe it's around the $1,400 range. So it's a big price, but it does give you a lot of bottom end snap on your YZ250F. When you take that Vortex off and put the stock ECU on with the 450 airbox, it's really not that big of a difference. So you really need kind of the whole package to get that bottom end grunt back. But Yamaha 250F, extremely strong on the bottom end, extremely loud because of that downdraft intake coming up here at the front of the seat, and it makes for a fun power on the track.
First impressions on the Yamaha, it's definitely a strong motor. It's really, really loud. It feels like you're going really fast because of how loud it is, but you're really not. Well, first impressions were it made a lot of sound, but I struggle a little bit with gear placement. Second gear is a little short for me when I'm riding, and I'm a little heavier, so like the pickup feel coming out of the turns feels like it delays the length of the straightaway, but when I'm in second gear at peak power, I have to shift third really quick. I know last year we changed the sprocket on the bike, which made a big difference for me. The recovery on the Yamaha, I would say compared to my Husky, is lacking a bit. The Yamaha, you come into a corner and you make a mistake, you really pay for that mistake throughout the rest of the corner, where the Austrian brand recovers a lot quicker. I would describe the Yamaha as coming into the corner, make a little mistake, you just bow, where the Austrian bike goes bow.
So it still has the same bog. It's a 250.
Yes.
Both bikes are 250s. Both bikes have a bog.
Yeah.
But not as gnarly.
Not as gnarly on the Husky as the Yamaha. The Yamaha wants you to ride it hard. I feel like it welcomes you to ride it hard, where the Husky is kind of track condition dependent. The Yamaha is pretty neutral in every track condition, I feel like.
The 25 was improved over the 24 YZ250F. I think the 24 I had an ECU and an intake on it, and this one feels very similar to that, and it's bone stock.
Power was good. I do feel like that bottom end has something going on though. Really slow and smooth. I don't know if that can be fixed with mods, but
on the mapping on the Yamaha basically, or like the low end throttle response?
Yeah, I know that.
To the Kawi.
Yeah, I know Twisted last year did some upgrades with airbox and ECU that really opened it up.
Yeah.
I kind of still felt that a little bit. Yeah, I like a little more low end off the YZ, but I really enjoyed the engine because short shift, ride it, rip it, had a good time.
The other updates the Yamaha made, you probably wouldn't even know they made these changes unless you watched our video. Yes, the foot peg brackets right here are cut down a little bit. Some of our test riders were standing on them. It kind of depends on your technique and your style of riding if you would stand on them or not before. So I stood on them before. Dennis Stapleton, he had big issues with them. So that's been cut down a little bit to make sure you don't stand there. The throttle tubes, everybody's talked about Yamaha thumb. That's where your thumb is pushing up against the throttle housing. Well, now with this extra little space here means that you have some extra wiggle room, so where you hopefully won't get any blisters on your thumb. Also, map switch, a little extra protection up here. All that does is basically make sure that if you bump into it with your hand or with your arm or with your chest, you're not going to be changing maps or shutting the bike off mid-moto. So overall, good times on the Yamaha YZ250F. It's impressive. The little updates they made did work in a positive direction. I had a ton of fun riding with Yamaha's Steven Tokarski. We always have a fun time broing down and battling on the track. Glen Helen, Fox Raceway, fun time. Thank you guys for watching this video. Stay tuned for more videos coming up. We're riding the new 2025 Kawasaki KX250 next week. That video will come out in about a week or so. Also, Triumph 250, we're putting some more time on that one, and we're getting closer to our 250 shootout, so stay tuned, motocrossactionmag.com.